I'll let Bull. Do you want to actually set this up? You and I have talked about this. It's T.J. Watt versus Myles Garrett, and there's been a little flip flopping, and I'm curious now where everyone stands on this discussion.
It's going to be more flip flopping when we're done.
If you want to set this up.
Okay, so obviously before the last time the Browns and Steelers played, we did something we're not doing today, but we've done on many Fridays where we draft the players. You know, if we were taking the two teams, we draft the players. We had a lot of fun with that last week. It was a very intricate conversation. Now, we all agreed last time the Browns played the Steelers that we draft Myles Garrett ahead of T.J. Watt. After the game, T.J. Watt had a bigger impact in that game than Myles Garrett did. Jay, you flip-flopped on that one to T.J. Watt.
The very next day.
Yes.
I think because we asked it the next day,
yes.
Watt or Garrett, and
right.
I said,
after
you know
the big
what?
impact,
I've seen another
they
splash
were close
play.
enough for you that flip-flop.
Yeah.
So the question is, now that we're, how many weeks is it now? 7 since that game, whatever it is, roughly?
Well, that was week 2, and we're going into week 11,
okay,
right?
so
correct.
So 9 weeks later.
9 weeks, yeah.
So 2 months and change later. Where do we feel right now?
Can I start on that?
Yeah, go, please.
So now you can give me Garrett.
Yeah.
And I had this. It's funny. Even before I knew we were doing this on the show today, we had a very similar conversation in a group upstairs going into the Pittsburgh week and then after. And we all kind of were in agreement that, gosh, Watt just is making these splash plays. Mm-hmm. That's what you want your franchise guy to do. For me, by the way, and I think I said this at the time, it's like picking between Babe Ruth or Hank Aaron.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
These guys are great elite players. And so, you know, it's not the Brady or Manning comparison because Brady obviously had so much more team success. With these guys, it's splitting hairs. And for me, I said I'm putting Watt above Garrett because of the splash plays. I think that Garrett had more to offer, and I wanted to see him have a bigger impact when the game was in the balance because I hadn't seen that from him. So, reserving the right to change our mind, as we all do and should as we're taking in more information.
As more information you get.
I now believe that I again have Garrett slightly ahead of Watt. And the reason is he has made those splash plays that we talked about so often with T.J. Watt on a consistent enough basis that now not only is he the most dominant player at his position or among them, he also is raising his level when the game dictates it. And for that reason, right now, I have Myles Garrett over T.J. Watt.
As close as it is, do you have Myles Garrett further ahead of Watt, even if it's by a tiny bit, than you did before those two teams played the first time?
Yes, I do. Now, again, splitting
tiny
hairs.
Bit.
So,
yeah.
Bull, if this was a 10-mile race and we're at mile 7, you know, before Myles was ahead by 10 feet, and then TJ moved ahead by 10 feet. But now I think Myles is ahead by 15 feet.
Yeah,
so, you know,
reasonable.
Is it something that could be made up in 2 games or in this game? Possibly.
Yeah.
We'll weigh this after the game. But again, I wasn't disparaging Myles Garrett, nor am I disparaging TJ Watt right now by saying I think Garrett's better. I think these guys are Hall of Fame trajectory. I think they're both top 3 or 4 play. Hell, I think they're probably the front runners for Defensive Player of the Year, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
They're 1 and 2 right now in Bill Barnwell's midseason projection.
For me, you know, when you say one's better than the other, it sounds like it's disparaging to whoever is. But for me, it's always been close. But right now, give me our guy.
By the way, Mike, before we continue, those numbers, right, outside of the tackles, Watt's got a slight edge, a very slight edge on the rest. But how many more has Watt played? Watt's played more games than Myles Garrett, right?
That's a good question.
I'll tell you right now. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
I think he has.
He's had some injuries too, though. TJ has.
Last year he missed a lot of time.
Did he come in the year before Myles, though?
Same draft class.
Same draft class. Wow.
He was the pick after David Njoku.
Correct.
Watt was.
So they could have drafted Watt and
Could you imagine if they had Myles Garrett?
TJ has played 3 more games, 96 to 93.
Can you put the numbers up again, just for now that we know that? I think it gives it better context. They average about a sack a game, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And it's funny, TJ has 2.5 more sacks. He's played 3 more games.
Yeah.
The tackles for loss, I think TJ is better against the run. Although Myles' arrow is going up for me against the run.
He's been better against the run. But one thing TJ
Watt
has always had a major advantage over Myles Garrett is, until this year, talent around him.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Yeah.
Like Cam Hayward's back this game.
He is
was
back.
not there in week
Yeah,
2.
yeah.
We'll talk about what
do
impact
you
that
guys
will have
think?
on the
Well, I've
game,
noticed
too.
we talk about the run, and this is going to sound like a criticism, and I don't mean it to be. I think Myles takes himself out of some of the running
With
plays.
the way he pass rushes.
With the way that he pass
I
rushes.
agree with
I've
that.
seen teams go right at him because they know he's not going to be there.
And it's worked for big plays in the past.
Because they're
You
running the
pointed one
spot
out
he
last
vacated.
week.
So I noticed that, especially the last couple of weeks. I've been trying to watch him more and more and more. And he just, the angles that he takes or some of the moves, he just takes himself right out
Is
of
that
some
a
of the running
trade-off
plays.
you're willing to
Yes.
live with? To me, it's like striking out and home runs
Yes.
in
Right.
baseball. I'm fine with that.
I would actually rather that. His offsides drive me crazy.
Yeah, that's a
because
problem.
he doesn't.
Didn't need to.
He doesn't need to. That's exactly right. He's so big, fast, and strong. He doesn't need that extra half second.
Yeah.
And so it's those 5-yard gimmies that drive me crazy.
And
I would
he
rather take yourself out of running plays if you want. You got 10 guys behind you to clean it up.
Yeah.
Just don't jump.
But it's the jumping that
Yeah.
just drives me. And he doesn't care. Like he's like, I'll get it back. Like
So to him, that's a
Yeah.
strikeout to a power
Right,
hitter.
right.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
exactly
but really, I think it's more punitive because if it's 2nd and 7, now it's 2nd
Second
and 2.
and 2.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if it's 1st and 10, now it's 1st and 5.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett is a nuclear weapon. He's just simply better than everybody, and he's so far ahead of everybody.
Even with the numbers, he trails in all the stats.
Here's the thing: you got to think about it. Joe Woods was the worst coordinator I've ever seen for 3 years. He lined Myles Garrett up there to get double team and triple team and did nothing about it. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
Like Myles Garrett played on a team that didn't win a game. What they won? One game, won 15, and he still had 8, 9, 10 sacks that year. Like, he's playing now with guys that are now just up to his level, but the Emmanuel Ogbas of the world, come on, man. He played with the Danny Sheltons of the world. I mean, this guy, TJ Watt, is playing with one of the best defensive tackles of our time, and Cameron Hayward. He always has a running mate at the other side.
Yeah,
they
he
always have an impact safety and impact linebackers.
And they're he's been coached by the same defensive guy for his entire time there. Think about this for a minute, which I'm with G. Maybe not as big a gap as you think, a little bigger than you think. If it had been reversed, let's say Myles Garrett had been a Steeler his whole career and TJ Watt had been a Brown, I think TJ Watt's still very good, but not as good as he is in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, no, that's
I
fair.
think Myles Garrett's even better than he was
He has
here.
120 sacks.
Well, because he's got
Yeah,
better talent
that's
around him.
right.
And what's amazing is, I think we'll all agree this is his best season so far.
Yes.
And this is really the first time that this organization has surrounded him with the kind of talent he deserves to
And
be
he
playing
stayed
with.
healthy.
And to-
That's
and-
been a key
and
part
Bill,
of it,
to
too.
your point,
Yeah.
about if he was a Steeler,
Yeah.
he'd be playing a lot more bigger games. And it's just human nature. When
Yeah.
you're just getting beaten down
No,
week
you're right.
after week and you're getting your ass kicked as a team, it takes some of the edge off.
true.
And it's just human nature. And
Right.
if you're in the Steelers and you're in playoff contention every single year,
That's a great point.
It matters.
We've forgotten the 0-16 and the 1-15.
Yeah.
In just how demoralizing and how small every one of those games felt. When you're 0-8,
Yeah.
you're thinking about January.
And think about this, guys, is TJ Watt, especially earlier in his career with Roethlisberger, has played in way more games where the Steelers have been up and the defense knows that the offense
Pinning
has to
the
throw
ears
the
back
ball.
and coming
so
at
it's
you.
easier.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett's not played in that many games like that because the Browns' offense, for the most part, since he's been here, has not been great.
if memory serves, he was not here for 1-15. 1-15 is what
Led
got
to
them
him
that
being
pick.
coming here.
Gotcha.
He was here for
He
0-16.
was here for some bad football.
Oh, thanks, Jason. That makes it much better.
Well, no, I'm just
No, he's
saying.
just clearing it up.
Because
He's
as we're
clearing it
saying,
up because
we're making it sound like he was here for 1-15
No, he
and
wasn't.
0-16.
Yeah, he was here for one of those.
He
was
was
the
here for
worst
one
of
of
the
them.
two.
Just like Joe Thomas, we don't even really know in context how good Joe Thomas is because he's never going to get credit for anything because they're going to say, even when you bring up the argument, who's the best left tackle ever to play? They're going to say, how can I make him the best left tackle? And he never even was in the playoffs.
He did go in the Hall of Fame.
But-
it's not
but-
like he's being
but-
disregarded.
But you can count the meaningful games that he played in on one hand.
Right.
Like, so his parallel to Myles Garrett's is so because they're so good that people won't give them a look or people they underestimate their skill level based on the fact that the Cleveland Browns, you get credit for how good your team is. And the Browns just have not been good enough.
This would be very hard to find out. Maybe, Mike, this would be like a 2 weeks of deep dive. But I would love to know the percentage of plays this first one's probably not that hard to find. It's probably easy. That Myles Garrett got double teamed versus T.J. Watt. I would bet Myles Garrett
gets doubled significantly more.
More in their career. Which I mean, that alone, the fact that their stats are so close. When Myles Garrett gets double teamed way more,
he gets double teamed more because there's more talent to worry about on the Steelers' defensive line. There's nobody else that the Browns are worried about.
I think it's that. I think that's most of it. I also think if I'm an offensive lineman, I'm more worried about Myles Garrett than I am of T.J. Watt, even though T.J. Watt's great.
Right.
And also, I'd love to know the percentage of pass rush snaps where the offense you're going against, they're in a situation when you know they're throwing the ball because they're down big or it's third and
more
long.
than 10.
I would guess that T.J. Watt has had way more plays in that situation. That would be almost impossible to find.
Yeah, it would take forever. There was
Yeah.
one stat that comes to mind when you talk about that.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a stat around Ben Roethlisberger that every game he played, the playoffs were still in play for his entire career?
I think there was one
that's
game.
Tom Brady. That's Tom Brady.
No, I think it was Roethlisberger.
I think you're
that
right,
we
but I
heard
think it
that
ended
about.
up being one game. That
Maybe
he
in his
didn't,
last
right
season.
at the end or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean,
they were exactly, yeah.
which is stunning. I mean, and
it's still been the case, even with not as good quarterbacks since, but it's still been the case.
they're always there. They're always in the mix. It's crazy.
We're going to bring Quincy Carrier here 1 sec. I have a stat at least last year, but I did a really quick search. But last season in 2022, Myles Garrett was double teamed on 37% of his pass rush attempts. T.J. Watt was at 26, so 11% more.
I mean, that's a
Myles Garrett
huge difference.
than T.J. Watt.
Yeah.
And with that, we will